I guess, as in the past, I think we'll open it up with introductions and kind of where have you been, where are you now, where are you going type things. And then I would like this to be more interactive. I think judging from the end of the last session, you guys have a lot of questions. So keep that in mind. I think as soon as they introduce themselves and kind of talk a little bit about themselves, but I think we can just go ahead and open it up right away to you guys if you have some questions. If not, I'll kind of keep pushing the rock down the street. But I guess we'll open up. Pam?
Sure.
Want to introduce yourself?
Okay. Hi, everyone. You having a good day?
Excellent.
Yeah, excellent day. Love it, love it. Well, I'm Pam Batalis. I graduated from the UMass Sport Management Program with my master's back in 1992. And have been in a variety of roles in the industry as well as outside of the industry in consulting for what I would consider the first half of my career so far. But how detailed do you want us to literally? You tell me.
It's up to you.
Career path in general?
Yeah, career path. I think it's a career
okay.
fair. Where to start?
Coming out of the grad program, you all will quickly realize, and even the undergrad program, that takes a little bit of time, lots of networking, and lots of digging, as you're all starting to experience. So I landed in sporting goods retail. Was my first endeavor with my ultimate goal, really trying to end up in the athletic footwear industry, either at Reebok or Nike in sales. So I figured, well, those doors weren't necessarily opening right away. There weren't opportunities. And you guys are fortunate. There weren't nearly as many internships back then as there are now. But coming out, I said, you know what the best, closest strategy would be? Sporting goods retail. You guys know it today kind of like a Modell's or a Sports Authority. Okay, back in the day in the New York, New Jersey area, there was a Herman's Sporting Goods. So I ended up literally just walking in the door with my master's degree, taking whatever job I could get. And again, you guys all know initiative pays off. You demonstrate initiative, good thinking skills, good management skills, quickly managing the footwear department of that particular store, all the while constantly beating the doors down of Nike and Reebok and all the athletic footwear companies in the greater Boston area, and that's where a lot of them are based. And finally got an interview, and what sold them on me on the spot was what, do you think? What do you think? What was I doing? Retail? Sporting goods retail? Okay. In sporting goods retail, I'm literally talking to who every day? Their customer. Okay? So right away, I had differentiating knowledge about their business because I understood the customer at the front lines, the last 2 feet before the wall is what they call it in that industry. So that ended up being, some people were like, oh my God, what a bummer, you're starting out in retail. After you got out of the grad program at UMass, it ended up being the best move ever because I started at the ground floor, understood the customer, and was immediately able to apply that knowledge to get the job with Reebok. Ended up developing some neat things for them, developing women's team sales, women's basketball shoes, performance shoes on a woman's last did not exist back then. We literally created that while I was at Reebok. We built women's team sales, and then that evolved for me into an entrepreneurial opportunity where I jumped to launching women's pro basketball in this country, the American Basketball League, which then folded after 3 years, morphed into what you guys all know as the WNBA in 1998. And then from there, basically ended up going into the sport trading card industry because you guys grew up knowing the internet, but for myself, the chance to build an internet company and get a click on your resume after only bricks on your resume was kind of a neat thing. So back in 1999 through 2001, launched a sport trading card e-commerce business that we ended up selling to Topps. And again, at that point, there was another global downturn. Believe me, we had one before this. And it was back in June of 2000 and 2001. You guys were all too young, but your parents were having financial conniption fits back then as well. It seems to happen every 10 years. Little tip, save your pesos. It happens about every 10 years. There's a huge downturn right now, in our industry anyway. But yeah, so we ended up transitioning at that point over to corporate consulting. So instead of staying in sports, I literally stepped outside of sports, which is something you guys might end up needing to do and wanting to do at some point to broaden your skill set to be able to come back in. And it was a great move for me. I spent 8 years in a brand and marketing strategy consulting firm in New York City where I was working with everyone from Procter & Gamble to the NHL. So really broadened my intellectual equity and knowledge about brand strategy and about marketing strategy. So I was dying to try to bring that back to sport. So as a handful of you know, I taught here on campus all last year while I had my own consulting firm in the city for the last 2 years. Just a real small shop, independent, just playing off of all of my contacts that I had over my career. And did that for 2 years while I was teaching here in the sport management program, as well as in St. John's sport management program in the city. And before you know it, UMass Athletic Department decides they're going to outsource their corporate or bring in an external partner to manage all of their corporate sponsorships and their media rights. As the football program goes Division I, they really need to be prepared on the corporate sponsorship side of that revenue as well. They decide they're going to bring in an external partner. They choose Nelligan Sports Marketing. Nelligan Sports Marketing ends up choosing me. There weren't any connections in there or anything. Don't read into that. So basically, before you know it, I'm back here at UMass, still commuting back and forth from New York City to Amherst every week, but loving every minute of it. And that's my opportunity to kind of give back to my alma mater and really dive into an aspect of our industry that allows me to bring together all of my experience pieces, because everything we do in corporate sponsorship really seems to utilize each piece to some degree of my steps along the way. So that would kind of be the big thing I share with you guys is, there's no end, it's a journey, and every single piece, if you allow it, will lead you to the next experience or complement and enhance what you can bring to the next step in your career, because it really is a never-ending ladder. It's going to constantly evolve, especially in today's economy.
Tracy?
Oh, no, go ahead, please.
Oh, thank you. Well, my path isn't as interesting as
That's a roller coaster ride.
Happy Pill over here, but I'm originally grew up in Maryland area and ventured off, and I went to the sport management program, not in Maryland, but at West Virginia University. And after I graduated from West Virginia, I went to actually work for an ad agency in Richmond, Virginia called the Martin Agency. And the Martin Agency is a medium-sized shop. It's actually a little bit bigger. It's now part of the WPP families and IPGs and all that stuff. And these are holding companies. You guys will learn along the way. But I got into, with my sport management degree, I got actually learned about the television side through buying media at the Martin Agency. And my account was Mercedes. And Mercedes bought a lot of tennis, and Mercedes bought a lot of golf. So my job there was to do a lot of upfront buys in June, where everybody buys ahead of time at a discounted rate. And through this whole process, I'm learning more and more how to evaluate the media, more and more how to evaluate sponsorship, because a lot of times people say, will you buy 30-second ads or will you buy signage behind home plate? That was the question. As a media buyer, we had to do this. So that led me to New York City. I was in Richmond for about a year and a half, and led myself to New York City, where I worked for McCann Erickson and Momentum for years, and then I eventually went to Fox Sports, ran the Fox Sports poll for several years, and then eventually ran the ESPN Sports poll, and now I run the McCormack Center here at UMass. So that's how I got here. But I will tell you that the agency and television media, and I won't forget to tell you this, like you've heard it probably a million times today, sell, sell, sell. Learn how to sell, okay? Because it's going to creep up, and it'll help you with the skills that you need to be on the other side of the table. So.
Hi, I am Blandine, Reid. I have a kind of a different path. I grew up in Boston. I live in New York. I work for ESPN. I got my MBA, my BA in communications from Boston College, and my goal was to become a radio disc jockey or a news reporter. So that's how I started. That's how I started in sports. So you may look at a direction and not really. That direction leads you other ways. So you get access to certain things. And then I worked for 2 radio stations before moving to New York. Came out to New York, worked for a station, actually used to plan big events at Jones Beach. That was also something that I did a lot during college and right after school, planning events and trying to promote myself in the radio industry. And while I was promoting an event at Jones Beach, I ran into the Senior Vice President of Sales at Madison Square Garden Network. And he had been invited out there with a client, and the client brought him to me because he thought I was just a great spirit and loved the way I presented myself and sold the station and made them become a part of this event. invited me down to the city, which I was living in Brooklyn, but commuting out to West Babylon, and I have to tell you, it's like going from Bristol to New York every single day, 4 times a day. And I went to an interview, and I started working at Madison Square Garden Network doing as a sales coordinator. Bottom rung job, you know, doing make goods with McCann and all the different agencies and calling up when Spots didn't run the Knicks and Spots didn't run the Rangers, constantly doing that. And so it was I went from radio to television. And then during my time at the Madison Square Garden, marketing and events and promotion has always been something that I've been interested in. And an opportunity came in for me to work at the New York Knicks. I jumped on it. It was the years when the Knicks actually used to win something. So I got, fortunately for me, I went to the playoff every year for 5 years, went to the finals 1 year, and so it's an amazing experience. I didn't sleep much, didn't spend a lot of time with my family. My son's first 2.5 years were spent seeing me, you know, for 2 hours before a game while he can play on the court, and then getting him out someplace else because I didn't get to spend a lot of time with him. I left sports after that because I'll tell you, sports is a very grueling business, and you know, if you're there 14, 15 hours a day, 6 days a week, you have no weekends whatsoever. You're not going to see your parents on, you know, Thanksgiving because you got a game, a doubleheader on Thanksgiving weekend. So, you know, I did that for 5 years, and I left sports, went into entertainment, continued on the marketing path, started working for a TV Guide, did a stop at a publisher for a little bit, and then I started working at, I don't know, sports called me back again, I guess, and I've been with ESPN for about 6.5 years. And another thing that, you know, I think I take from my experience, you know, I'm always of the mindset the job that I actually want isn't the job that actually becomes a fit for me. So at ESPN, I've been there 6.5 years. I think I've had 5 jobs. I've managed the platform. I was the leader on ESPN the Magazine. I managed all the marketing for ESPN the Magazine. Before that, I did all of the consumer promotions when you see the sweepstakes and the co-branded spots on ESPN. I used to do that business for about 2 years. And now I'm in a group called Sports Management, and I manage the sports, a particular sports business across 360 for the entire company. So, for example, the SBs, I manage everything from content with the producers in Bristol to the website to any other content that we're doing overall and planning the entire strategy. So everything that I learned at some point in my career kind of led me to this point. So I guess I'll just echo what I've been hearing today, and some of it's kind of reminds me of where you start your career, where you just have to, you always have to be prepared to adapt yourself to change in sports, because things move just like the game does. I mean, the score changes every second. Your career could change almost in a whim in a similar way, and you have to be prepared for that, and you have to really have a passion for it to actually be able to withstand the struggles, because it takes years to get to a point in your career where you can sit back and say, I've made it, you know, so.
And then they have a reorg.
Yeah, well, that's about 12 years.